AJ, what do you do,
Yep.
and how much money do you
I
make?
Yeah, I'm a full-time UI UX designer and I make around $130,000 a year.
Nice, nice. And I know you have OneTap at the moment that you're
Mm-hmm.
focusing on, like your
Mm-hmm.
own project. So can you explain to me how that sort of works and how many users you currently have?
Yeah. So, to give you an easy example, when I was like pushing my other products, I was constantly sharing like the website link to those products, the download
Hmm.
link, our business plan, and it was annoying just copying pasting those links all the time. And I was like, how cool would it be if there's a product that allow you to share this type of stuff whenever you needed to from your keyboard, so you wouldn't have to go search for things. You would just tap a button and it would share whatever you need to share. So that's pretty much what OneTap does. It creates custom keyboard shortcuts on your keyboard so you can share text phrases, files, photos, links in just one tap whenever you need to. It's great for sharing your portfolio link, your resume, anything that you need available to share at any time, but also things that you also share every day. We just crossed 7,500 users this past week. About 1,500 of them are monthly active users. Daily active users hover around like 300 to 400. We have about like 500 to 1,000 keyboard shortcuts used a day. Um, we are at a very low MRR, around like $200 for how many users we have, but that's because we offer this lifetime option, where it's like a one-time purchase, and then they
Hmm.
get the access to the app forever, and that's generating about $1,000 plus per month. So, um, other than that, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
trying to. This year's been insanely huge for growth. I mean, I think we made as much money as we did in a year last year in 3 weeks in January. So we're
Oh
definitely
wow.
like growing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you've got, you had the stable job. What
hmm
made you actually start this, and when did you have the idea? This is what I want to start.
Yeah, so I've always been a guy that has like a job and then like does some on the side.
Hmm.
But what made me really, think about this idea was the example I talked about earlier about like my other products and having to share the same info.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I had a son, and my family and friends were like, yeah, like share, can you send pictures? And, we're taking 100 pictures every minute. So it was annoying
Yeah.
going through like each photo and all my favorites. And so I just saved a lot of my favorite photos to my keyboard to share. So that's kind of how like the concept started. But yeah, just an idea I had one day and a problem I was hitting.
Yeah. Perfect. And I know you were working on a few different things. Point was at what point did you think this is going to be my full-time focus and this is what I want to, spend all my time and energy on?
Yeah, so the product I was pushing before this was a live streaming app for creators, which was doing pretty good, but we needed funding and it was just really hard to get. So at the same time, my wife and I found out, we're having a kid, and I was like, okay, I definitely need to get a full time job. I'm gonna shut this startup down,
Yeah.
get more stable, income coming through. So I actually took a year off of like pushing a side project or anything along those lines. And I was just kind of like thinking of a new problem to solve. And
Hmm.
when I thought of this problem, I was like, this is a great idea. And then the next thing I wanted to do was figure out a way to build it as lean as possible. My last products needed a
Yeah.
lot of time development. There's a lot of server costs. And so with OneTap, I wanted to build a product that essentially can just be on its own. I don't have to service it a lot. And then more importantly, I don't have a ton of like overhead. And that's exactly what we've done. Like we don't have any servers. We have zero server costs.
Hmm.
Our expenses are like $20 a month,
Hmm.
because all our users save all their content right on their keyboard locally,
Right.
so we don't have access to data or anything. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think the year off was like a good step for me because I could step back and like really plan out how I want to do this, especially with a kid on the way and not having a ton of time.
Yeah. 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 And you did mention removing stuff like server costs and everything like that. What would you say for someone who would want to get into it? Is sort of the typical startup cost of making an app, and what are the main expenses that you had in the beginning, or is it that
I think
I assume it differs?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think it depends on the product. I think, see, this is what's hard. That's a hard question to answer because, like, if you don't have a technical background, you're pretty much screwed. But
Yeah.
if you have a technical background and you understand how things work, I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing is understanding your product. So for me, for like OneTap, we were the most like users would upload would be like these, small files, small videos, photos, whatever. So we didn't need it to be on a server and that we could like, constantly like pull and show in the product because the things they were uploading just weren't that like massive. So we use something called
Okay.
user defaults, which allows the app to save everything locally to the user's phone. This probably user
Yeah.
defaults would not work for like a social media app. Like that's not a good idea. So that's what I mean by like it depends on your product and what you're building. But like a social media app, I mean, if you're not technical and you're going to get that built, I mean, that's a smooth, like at the very minimum, 40K probably.
Hmm.
And then, that's why I want to like encourage new like founders that are going into the tech world or already in it, and have a technical background to like build something simple, like don't
Hmm.
go for the home run. Build like a simple to use product. It might not be sexy, but focus on building a business, and that's kind of like what I'm doing with OneTap, and
Yeah.
it's been working really well compared to like the 5 other products I tried to do that were like trying to hit home runs, and it's just like very hard to do. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's just very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would you say are your profit margins at the moment?
Well, Apple takes 30% of every purchase, and then
Hmm.
after that, 70% because
Okay.
like I said, we pay like $20 a month to OpenAI, and that's it
Right.
every month.
Right. Yeah. Nice. And so you make the app, you launch it. How did you go about finding your first paying customer?
Well, okay, so that's a good question. The biggest thing I would definitely recommend is being able to make revenue from the start with your product, building a
Hmm.
business, not worrying about funding and building, I'm going to build a massive community and then add revenue. Like I would do it right from the start. And when I first launched the product, we had like, I was able to get like 400 beta users from Twitter.
Hmm.
And the biggest issue I had though was that I couldn't contact those beta users really, because I just shared like a beta testing link. So I
Okay.
couldn't really communicate with them. So I think the biggest thing there would be if you want to start getting product market fit is being able to like stay in contact with your users or early access users. And then what I really did was build in public on Twitter. Like I was just constantly sharing updates, and doing cold outreach and trying to get some sort of like mass burst of downloads into the product. And after a couple of months of launching, we were able to do that, and I was able to see kind of how users were navigating in the product, if there was any issues, because that does affect your product market fit. If your product doesn't work, if your users don't understand what the hell's going on,
Hmm.
then it's going to be hard to retain them and get new users. And in the beginning, we found that people weren't understanding how to get started. People weren't understanding how that product works, why they want to use it, and that just came from like adding analytics tools like Mixpanel, which I highly suggest, where you can just watch users' journeys.
Right.
And once we updated that, I mean, that was like a whole year process. That was a lot of like testing, and then I had to figure out the right price point, which took like 3 to 4 months to figure out that out. Like that was a whole thing, and then I think that's what led to us in January really this year really starting to grow because we started getting some features and the app's more sound, people understand better, and we're retaining more users and they're spreading the word.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did mention pricing. Um, how did you go about pricing? Was it sort of testing something, see if it worked, and then adjusting, or?
Yeah, man, I'm literally about to write this whole thread on Twitter about this today, because it's I'm not saying I have the recipe for it, but my
Yeah.
recipe is clearly, well, it's working. It's doing better than I thought it was. And so what I did in the beginning was pretty much the first 8 months of 2023. I was like trying to figure out why people weren't purchasing our monthly and yearly plan. Like we were at
Hmm.
50 MRR, and I was like, we have like thousands of users. This doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
then I added a one-time option to test, a one-time purchase option. and that was way more expensive than our monthly and yearly plans. And then I started realizing, like, okay, well, I'm starting to get some lifetime purchases. So I'm like, do I go all in on the lifetime product, like lifetime purchase, and then put monthly and yearly secondary? And started messing with the pricing for monthly, yearly, and lifetime. I mean, we had a monthly plan at like $1.49 at one point. It's at $4.99 right now. And our yearly at one point was at $14.99. It's now at $34.99. And it's like people were kind of upgrading, kind of like we got to like 150 MRR, but it was still people were buying lifetime options. They were just buying the lifetime options more. And so I took a step back and I was trying to figure out like how much does a user cost us? Because once I get this payment from them, from the lifetime purchase, it's like I'm never going to get their revenue again. So it's like, can we sustain how much they're going to cost us per month? And the answer was yes. So when we found out that each user was costing us about 5 cents, and so we charge $49.99 for a lifetime option, and I redesigned the product so that the user sees the lifetime option first, and then at the bottom they can choose like other pricing options, and they'll head on over to the monthly yearly option. And that started doing really, really well. And then I saw some other apps offering like a one-time discount to the lifetime option. And I was like, you know, I might do that. Let me try that. So we implemented that, and that shows one time, and that has driven a lot more purchases than, you know, without it. And that whole process, I mean, that went from August to, I would say, December like 14th. August 1 to December 14th. I was just testing different pricing, adding new things. It was a struggle because I also had to drive users in, and like, because you're not going to like test pricing with 3 users coming in per day, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, so there was a lot of like, is this even something that people want to buy? And then I just figured out that people just look at the product as like something they just want to pay one time. They don't want to pay monthly for this. You know, it's not like a Twitter or Instagram, things like that. So understanding your users and figuring it out, it's going to take time, but it's crucial for the pricing strategy.
Yeah. And I know you spend a lot of time driving users, figuring out your pricing plans and everything like that. Have you ever thought about hiring people, or have you hired people yet, or is that something you're still looking into?
Yeah, so everything design related, I'm gonna do. I did connect with a developer on Twitter. His name's he was a huge Siri shortcut user. I don't know if you know about Siri shortcuts, but he was a huge Siri shortcut user, and I was sharing videos of OneTap, and he's like, "Man, this is a dope idea. Like, I would love to just help out." And he's a student, like he's a student, and I think he's in high school now, but he's like a really talented developer. And I was like, it would be really helpful if he can do this, make this sound, and so that I can work on marketing and design. You know, that would be the ideal situation. So I pay him like a really good rate. I've been trying to get him on the team. So that, he gets his definitely return on investment, but, he's not there yet. And I told him like, hey, like if anything does happen here where we can exit or do anything like that, I'm going to make sure that, he's taken care of. But he does all the development work and got it to where it's at today. So grateful I connected with him, and I do the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. No, and I agree with him, to be fair. Once I checked out the OneTap sort of interface and how it works, I feel like it's something I definitely need. I didn't know it existed. So
sure.
You've got yourself another
user.
user.
Share the podcast link. Share this podcast link whenever you need it, man. Right from your keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you've worked on other apps before OneTap where that didn't work, like you said. And after spending so much time on a product that doesn't perform, it must be hard to make that decision to pull the plug and move on. Is that something you've struggled with? And how do you make the decision to, how do you know this isn't going to work? I need to move on from this.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. The first product I had was like this location-based chat room product, and that was like prime grind mode. Like I was like beginning entrepreneurship, waking up, going hard as hell, and grew that to like 4,000 users, and noticed like wasn't retaining anyone. Tried adding like this geofence, like ad-based feature where like you pass something, you get a notification, hey, this place has 10% off.
All right.
join that place's chat room to, learn more. And it was like, then Apple integrated like this location privacy feature. So that was hard because people weren't giving us access to location.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one's giving me funding. And I did that for like 3 years. And I was like, all right, let me see if I can like pivot. So we kept like the chat stuff, but we pivoted to like creators, and we did
Mm-hmm.
this like live stream app where they would like make money per minute from each viewer in their stream. And I was doing good on that, right? I think we were getting like $750 a month, which wasn't crazy, but we had like over like 500 lives per month. The average live was generating like $15 for the creator, which for smaller and
Mm-hmm.
medium size is like, that's pretty legit because they would have to like,
Yeah.
really grow their audience. And what we really needed was funding, man. And, we got really close to being approved at this accelerator called Generator, where they give us 100K. Made it to the
Mm-hmm.
last round. We didn't make it in. And then my son was on the way. And I was like, this is just terrible timing. Like, I just have to like shut this down. And to this day, I stand by that live streaming app. I still think to this day it could do really well, and I would definitely work on it again. But I don't think I would work on it again until after I'm done with OneTap, just because of how much work it would need
Yeah.
and how much time it would need. But I do think it was a product to help those small to medium sized creators like start making money. And it just sucks sometimes, man. Like sometimes you just gotta like deal with it. Like it's just not going to work because, it's either you keep going down that route and you lose all your money, or it's like you pivot and try to like start making money again. And that's kind of what I did after the second time. I was like, it's done. So
Yeah. Yeah. And what would you say are the most important skills to learn in order to be successful in this type of business?
are we talking tech, or are we talking just as an entrepreneur?
Uh, Both. I assume for tech you would need that
Yeah.
developer background,
Yeah.
which is a given. But
Yeah.
what some traits that you found are the best traits to have to sort of run a business?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll do both scenarios. I think in the tech world, if you're not technical and you don't have someone that's on your team that's technical, that's going to be super difficult. So I think
Hmm.
you definitely have to have some sort of technical background on your team, design experience on your team, and then definitely marketing. So, and on the entrepreneur side, I think you need to have, a marketing and strategy side, and like understand that like this shit is not built overnight. Like a lot of people think
Hmm.
this stuff is like, 1 month I'm going to go really hard and then like, where's my money? It's like,
Yeah.
some entrepreneurs don't make money for like 7 to 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's an actual thing, and you have to be super committed and driven and resilient and persistent.
Hmm.
And I think the most important thing any entrepreneur or tech founder, design founder, whatever could have is the need to always want to learn. I think that's like
Hmm.
one of the biggest things. I think it's something that you need to, do every day, at least for 30 minutes to an hour, where you're learning something new, so that as your business is growing, you are also growing as a person and can help, feed that growth back into the business. But yeah, I would definitely say like, tech side, like definitely have a dev that understands technical side. And then on the entrepreneur side, just having like a strategy mind and like, the passion and the commitment to like, understand that you're in it for till you make it, like you could be on your last
Yeah.
penny, but you're still going, or you might not have any left, but you're still going. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Perfect. And can you break down some of the marketing strategies that you use to grow the business? I assume social media was a big part of that.
Yeah, so I haven't had as much success as others on Twitter, which is surprising because I've been doing it for like a year and a half. There's this like
Hmm.
community called hashtag Building Public. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you have tons of people just building products, random just individuals making thousands of dollars per month just from sharing, their journey on Twitter, which is really dope. So I did
Hmm.
that. I did I tried some SEO, didn't really get a huge return on that. Tried some TikTok ads, didn't get a huge return. Google ads, I was getting people into the website, but not really converting.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing for me, and I think every app owner should hear this, I think if you own an app, you need to buckle down and solely focus on App Store keywords. And that's essentially the SEO for the App Store. Okay, so if you don't have keywords, like people aren't going to naturally find you through search. And I didn't think this was important up until I updated my keywords in November 1st, 2023. So we went like a year and a month, 2 months, just like random keywords. I was getting around 3 to 5 users a day. After I implemented those keywords, I'd say after 2 weeks, that bumped to like 5 to 10 users a day. That wasn't a lot, but then we got featured on, a pretty big YouTube channel at the end of the year, and that bumped up my keywords, and then that jumped from 15 to 20 users. Then we got some more features, and now we're getting about 25 to 35 users a day. And, it's time for me to implement new keywords now that we've ranked up. Now I can go to like the more popular size ones in hopes of, getting more users. And I look at my analytics every month, and that drives in over 80% of my users, like just people searching. So it's super important. And it only helps you get more revenue and downloads, especially when you get featured on something. Because if you have the right keywords, you're ranking up. If you don't have the right keywords, you're not ranking up. So highly suggest putting in that time and doing that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And as a developer, I'm sure there were many bumps in the road that you had to go through. So I'm wondering, would you say was your biggest challenge when building your business, and how did you overcome that and, get to where you are?
Man, you got good questions. I would definitely say like the fact that I can code, but I'm more of like a coder that like can code designs, like a front end guy. Not so much like I could build a complex product. And when I was building OneTap, that was my biggest thing. It was like, damn, this is a pretty complex product. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, and I need to do it now. And how I got it built was kind of an insane story, if you want me to go into that. But I was just like, I need someone to build this, and luckily I got it built for free somehow. And then connected with who on Twitter, who really took it to the next level. And that was the biggest challenge. And honestly, like that kind of been my biggest challenge for all my products. And with OneTap, it was like kind of easy. Like I didn't really struggle with that roadblock, but that was a big roadblock, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because after that, when we launched, like we had the revenue in place, we had all the things to make the product go, but then that led us to our next issue, is like, which I explained earlier, like why weren't people upgrading? And that's when we had to integrate the user journey analytics tool, and that just helped us understand on a whole other level. So definitely getting the product sound would be the biggest challenge at no cost.
Yeah. Amazing. So what does a typical day look like for you? Like, what's your typical sort of routine?
Yeah, love routines. Huge fan of routines. So
3 a.m. cold shower.
No. Like I said, when I first started the entrepreneurship shit, like that's when I was doing it. I was like, yeah, I'm getting up at 5. Like, I think to speak on that, I just think it depends on the type of person you are, how your body reacts. Like I'm someone that's constantly listening to how my body reacts to things, and I'm more of a night owl. So if anything, I'm gonna stay up late. I'm probably not gonna get up early like that, but definitely need that solid like 7 hours. But now that we moved to Albania from America, I really, really enjoy my schedule. So what happens is, we usually wake up at 7:45, 7:30 when my son wakes up, take him to daycare. And then, everyone in the US is sleeping. So my wife and I can, have a peaceful morning and, get some coffee, get some things done. And she'll head off to the gym around 11:30. I'll start work for my job at 12, and I'll work till like 9 p.m. Obviously, I'll go home for dinner, see my son, do all that stuff. And then after 9 p.m., I usually take like 2 to 3 hours and just like work on OneTap as much as I can. And some days I work on OneTap like an hour or 2 hours before work, depending if my wife has something to do. But OneTap and my freelance stuff, I should say. But I think, there's not a lot of hours in the day. I think the biggest thing is when you are working and when you're working on things is just being as efficient as possible. and just getting things done. You know what I mean? Like, don't bullshit, just get things done. And, you know, if you budget your time correctly, you'll be able to work on many things. It's just can be difficult for some people. So I just balance my time very well.
Amazing. Yeah. And the final question I have for you is, what's one thing that you would do differently if you were to wake up tomorrow and start your business all over again?
My wife asks me this all the time. And it's like, it's like the yin and the yang. It has its like positives and negatives. Like when I quit my job in 2017 to start my first app and took out like this life insurance fund my dad left me so I could just like work full time on this product and teach myself how to design and code because I didn't know anything. And that journey, like doing that full time, definitely like helped me get this design job where I'm at today, helped me get this experience, whatever, and I'm grateful for that. But it also set me individually back, you know, a couple years, especially, you know, in corporate and with finances, because, you know, you're living very, very, like on a budget, I should say. Like I was not really, you know, I was living on my savings. Nothing was coming in for years. So,
Yeah.
when I got this design job, you know, a lot of my friends already had design jobs. I mean, and jobs in general were moving up, and I'm just starting. And you know, I look back and I'm like, damn, I wish I like didn't quit my job and instead got like an intermediate job as a UI UX designer while still pushing my app. But then I was like, you know, I see how some people, like some new designers come in the industry and like, you know, they start learning, and I'm like, damn, like I just feel like I was learning so much faster on my own. And I feel like I would have learned a lot slower, you know, working for someone else. But again, there's answers we don't know, but I think probably maybe saving the savings my dad left me and, you know, going down the corporate way and working on my product to still until I made money would be the only, you know, difference I would change. Everything else, I'm definitely content with.
Yeah. Perfect. And where can people find you, AJ?
Find me on X, AJ Picard 25. And I'm on Instagram a little, TikTok a little. But when it comes to like just product stuff, technical stuff, design stuff, I'm posting that all on X. I love X.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Well, perfect. AJ, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you having me, man. It was a blast.